Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me for another video. My name is Christy Chitengu, and if you didn't watch the introductory video, please go back and watch that so you can get to know me a little more and get to know what this channel will be about. So as the title of this video suggests, today we'll be talking about Section 4.3 citizenship. Now, Section 4.3 citizenship is what is often referred to as citizenship by naturalization. What this means is you have to apply for it. You don't get it automatically from the day you're born, like some South Africans whose parents are South Africans get their citizenship. This type of citizenship you have to apply for. Now, I'm going to be telling you how you apply for it, what the requirements are for application, who can help you draft your application, as well as what some of the legal problems we've encountered with applying for such citizenship. So the requirements are set out in the South African Citizenship Act. These requirements are: you have to be born in South Africa, your parents should not be South African citizens or permanent residents, you have to be a major, which means you have to be the age of 18 or older. You have to have lived in the country from the date of your birth till the age till your age of majority, so till you turn 18. And lastly, your birth has to be registered. Now, let's break down each of these requirements so that you know if you qualify or not. So, being born in South Africa, that's a given. The important thing about this specific application, you have to prove each of these requirements with documentation. So, the first thing you can prove that you were born in South Africa is a birth certificate. Now, a lot of people whose mothers are not South African citizens are given a written birth certificate from birth that accordingly registers your birth. And it doesn't entitle you to South African citizenship, but it proves that you were born here. Another thing that can prove your birth could be a clinic card. So when women are pregnant and they go to the clinic, they have a card which documents each visit, each immunization that their child receives. Now that can also prove that you were born in South Africa. You have to be 18 years or older. That can be proven by your date of birth. Also, having to prove that you lived in the country from birth to date. That's where a lot of the documentation will come into play. So you can prove that you lived in South Africa from birth till you turned 18 by providing school reports, certificates, any letters that have your address on them, and any letters that are addressed to you, all of which can prove that you've lived in South Africa. Now, important to note is that if you went on vacation for a week, a month, that doesn't make you disqualified. That does not disqualify you. It's just a vacation, but for the most part, your life was in South Africa. And if you can get the documents to prove that, then you should be able to qualify. And so also your parents should not be South African citizens or permanent residents. If your parents are undocumented, if they're asylum seekers, if they are on a work permit, a ZSP permit, a study permit, then you should be able to apply and you qualify for the citizenship. Now, if anything sounds like you, if any of these requirements sound like your life, just leave a South African flag in the comments below so that I know that you're in the same boat with me. And then once you find that you qualify, then you should apply. Now, applying is a bit tricky. So you can't just walk up to any Home Affairs office and say, I'm here to apply for Section 4.3 citizenship. Here's my documents supporting my application, send it through. Unfortunately, that's not the reality. I wish it was. So, don't bother yourself honestly by going to any satellite Home Affairs office telling them that you were born in South Africa and you qualify for the citizenship, because it's more likely that they don't know what you're talking about and they're they're just clueless. So what you should do is that you can apply on Affidavit. Now, this idea of applying for Section 43 citizenship on Affidavit was introduced in the court judgment, which was titled Ali versus the Minister of Home Affairs. This judgment was the very first judgment which tested Section 43 citizenship at the courts, and it got the applicants their citizenship. They actually got, the court ordered that Home Affairs should consider their application within 10 days from that court judgment. That judgment was heard in 2017. So the judge in that matter said, among other things, that Home Affairs must create a form that will allow applicants who qualify to apply for this type of citizenship. Home Affairs was to make that form within a year from that court judgment. So in 2018, I believe Home Affairs should have had this application form for us to apply for. Now, another order of the court in that case was that until these forms were made, Home Affairs must, not they should, maybe if they feel like it, they must accept applications for this type of citizenship on Affidavit. Now, this is not your normal affidavit that you can write at the police station on one page. It's going to be a very lengthy affidavit. It's going to be lengthy because it's detailing everything about your life in South Africa. So it will read like a timeline. So I'm Christy Chitengu. I was born on this date at this hospital. Here is proof of that. Find attached my birth certificate. I went to primary school at this and this school. Here is proof of that. Find attached below my grade 1 report. So detailing everything, even after you've turned 18. If there were any jobs that you worked at, detail all of that. That's what the affidavit is going to detail. So what I always recommend people who approach me is that start collecting these documents, because you can get someone to help you, and you should. I would really recommend you get someone to help you draft this application. And I'll tell you who you can approach shortly. But when you approach NGOs or a legal representative to draft this application for you, I think it would help you a great deal if you've already collected all the documents that you will need to support your application. So if you haven't done so already, go to your parents, go to your grandparents, and ask them for all the documents that they might have about your life in South Africa, your entire life. Collect all those documents so that when you do approach a legal representative, you have everything in order, and it just cuts down the process. I took quite a bit of time collecting all the documents, and if I had processed, I think it's a duty on yourself to do all of that quickly. And I really believe that if I had done that faster, maybe the process would have been like reduced by a few more months. So I was also fortunate that my mom is a big like collector, and she kept everything. And I have grade 1 reports, I have my clinic card, I have my written birth certificate. So all of that I gave to my legal representative, who then drafted the application. They'll ask you maybe a few more questions and require additional things, but anything that has your name on it, that has a date, and that can prove you lived in South Africa, keep it. It's going to be very advantageous to you and to your application. Now, once you've drafted the application, like I mentioned, you can approach non-governmental organizations to help you. I will link their websites and their contact details down below so you can approach them. I will refer you to places like Lawyers for Human Rights. They have offices, I think, in the Gauteng province and in Cape Town, if I'm not mistaken. There's Scalabrini for people based in Cape Town. There's the Legal Resource Center. There is the Center for Child Law, and there is probono.org. These are all non-government organizations that can help you for free. You do not have to pay anything for their legal advice. You do not have to pay anything for them to process your application or to draft your application. So anyone who's telling you you have to pay anything, it's a scam. I actually had someone message me this week saying that they were asked to pay 5,000 Rand to process the application, and I was like, girl, it's a scam. Don't pay. I didn't have to pay. Besides the non-governmental organizations, there are some corporate law firms that have in their firm what is called a pro bono or human rights division. So depending on what the focus of that firm is, they could take on people who are trying to apply for Section 4.3 and help them through the application process. And that depends on the focus of that firm. So also you don't only have to approach non-government organizations, but you can also approach corporate law firms, particularly their pro bono and human rights division. If you approach another division, they're going to make you pay, and they're quite expensive. But those are your options. Now, once you have your application drafted, the next step that your legal representative should take, and is most likely to take on your behalf, is to email your application to Home Affairs. In my case, they emailed it and they asked me to go to the Home Affairs office and submit the actual application. I went to Home Affairs. They didn't know what I was talking about. I demanded that I speak to a manager because I didn't understand why no one knew what Section 4.3 citizenship was. And the manager said that he personally was aware of it, but that they were waiting for a directive from the National Department to tell them what to do and how to process these applications. Now, the reason why still today applications are being made on Affidavit is, remember that court order I mentioned? Home Affairs didn't publish any forms directing how we should apply. Even now in 2021, those forms haven't been drafted. They missed the court's deadline. And in 2020, I think it was July 2020, they submitted draft regulations, which were basically they were just a draft of what they want the form to look like and how they want to tell us how to apply. These regulations were very problematic because Home Affairs was making all sorts of barriers on how they were adding requirements. Essentially, they were trying to make it difficult for people to apply, and they were trying to exclude a lot of people. One of the regulations I read, which I thought was so crazy, was that once applicants, if they get the citizenship, you can't pass it down. So if you were to maybe have a child and you had Section 4.3 citizenship, your child couldn't get it. But that's not set in stone. That was just a draft. I think it's important for me to say so that you can hear how Home Affairs is thinking, how they are trying to make our lives difficult, essentially. So once your legal representative sends your application through to Home Affairs or to their citizen division, then it's assumed that, okay, all the work has been done, all the requirements have been met. But what is the problem now is that Home Affairs, more often than not, does not respond to receiving applications. They don't acknowledge receipt of the applications. They don't tell you that, no, we're considering your application. Oh, we've got so many applications that we're dealing with at the moment and expect a response at this date. Unfortunately, though, they don't work like that. A lot of times people don't get responses, which is the difficult part. But why I think it's important that you draft the application and your legal representative sends it, even if you know you're not going to get a response, is that by doing so, you are strengthening your case for potentially going to court. So if you can prove, and your legal representative can prove that, no, this matter, so and so sent their application on this date, we've been sending follow-up applications to Home Affairs and not receiving a response, that will show the court that you have been doing your best to obtain your citizenship and to enforce it. And it shows that Home Affairs has done nothing, even when they were afforded with the time to do so. So don't take that for granted. Don't think it's a useless exercise. It will definitely work in your favor in the long run. So how a lot of other people have gotten their citizenship is by approaching the courts for appropriate relief. Ali, and in the first case I mentioned, which was Ali versus the Minister of Home Affairs, there were 7 applicants in that case. I think 6 of which were granted the relief. The court didn't grant them citizenship because the court should not interfere in the work of the executive, which is the Department of Home Affairs. The court can tell them, consider these applications within 10 days, which it did. And then in another case, the Jose brothers, there were 2 applicants in that matter, and the court directed very similarly that Home Affairs should consider their applications. What is also very important about Section 4.3 citizenship is that it is an objective criteria, and that means that the criteria is there, and if you meet it on paper, you qualify. You don't need to use the discretion of the minister. The minister doesn't have to choose whether or not he feels as if you should be granted the citizenship. It says if you meet these requirements, you should qualify. It's not subjective, and so any other approach is unlawful, essentially, and goes against what Parliament intended when they drafted this provision. Now, when Home Affairs does not respond, a lot of the time it will take a while before your legal representative will see whether or not your matter should go to court. There are a lot of things that have to be done before a matter can go to court and where you can enforce your rights at that level, because you have going to court should essentially be the last resort, and they have to draft demand letters, have to continuously try and engage Home Affairs before you can approach the courts. And when it's visible that despite all of that, still nothing is being done, then you can go to court confidently knowing that you have a really strong case. So you have to be patient. You have to follow the process and really trust your legal representative and the strategy that they want to take with your case. Like I said, it's not all lost. People have gained their citizenship, but no one has gotten it by walking to a Home Affairs office and requesting an application form and applying. A lot of it has gone through the courts, which just shows the strength and the enforceability that the legal system has, and why you should definitely approach a lawyer to help you with your application. You don't have to pay for it. There are lots of capable people doing it for free and who have the heart for it. So definitely approach them for that. Also, I think this video is important to show that this isn't an easy battle. I'm still in the throes of it. I'm still trying to fight my way through it. But the more people who challenge this, who actually enforce their right by recognizing that, oh, I qualify, let me go to the listed NGOs below and see how far this can get me. Now, my suggestion and what I think would solve the problem, and this might be just like a big dream in the clouds somewhere, but what I really think can change the Section 4.3 landscape is a huge class action where we have hundreds of applicants who have the same legal problem all of us qualify for Section 4.3, and we've qualified, we've drafted our applications, we've done what we've tried to do to contact Home Affairs. And if all these applications are taken in a huge law case to court, then Home Affairs will see that, yo, guys, this is very serious. Let's do our best to create the application form and accept applications at our satellite offices, because we're now getting into hot water because we have this huge lawsuit with hundreds of applicants. So all the cases I've mentioned before, it's little groups of people, and in the bigger picture, there are a lot of people who qualify. And yes, I believe in the power of court judgments and how previous judgments pave the way for future applicants. But I think the greatest court judgment to enforce all of our rights and to make sure a lot of people get their applications considered as a result is to have a huge class action with a lot of people. Now, I don't know how possible that could be, because going to court is not cheap, but it's definitely something I really believe would make significant change, because if we wait on Home Affairs, we're going to keep having the same excuses, and we're going to have generations of stateless people. So that's my bit, guys. I hope this video has been informative. If you have any other questions, I will be engaging with everyone in the comments. If you've approached any of these NGOs, share your experience below. You might help someone. And yeah, let's keep talking about it. My upcoming videos will detail the success stories of Section 4.3, who got it and how they got it, just so I can show you that it's not all lost. We're not fighting for something that does not exist. People are getting their South African citizenship, and you could be the next person. So don't give up. Keep knocking on doors, keep going to consultations, and it will all be possible. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.